As many of you know, I started my YouTube channel, Gio'ism, Faith Built Success, and by God's grace, that message has now reached millions of people, tens of millions, and 250,000 subscribers that we now have, and in just 4 months. According to publicly available data on creator statistics, we are at the top 1% of the fastest growing channels worldwide. Some say even higher, more like 0.03% because of how fast we did it. It's all God's grace. I say it's the finger of God on our channel. But this was never just about building a social media following. It was about building people. What began as a vision has now become a mission to help transform lives spiritually, personally, and now that we were blessed to partner up with the Humphreys financially. That is one of the reasons why we wanted to begin these conversations, these interviews, because there are still so many people who do not realize the opportunity that exists within this industry. An industry where many people have been able to completely transform their lives financially while helping bless other families, protect lives of others. Talk about a win-win, or as we call it, a bless and be blessed principle. So in these interviews, I want to hear directly from these real people whose lives have been completely changed through belief, consistency, and service to others through this powerful and incredible industry. The goal is not just to showcase income and financial success, which it does come with it, but to really showcase the transformations, the freedom, purpose, faith, and the reality that life insurance sales and wealth management, when done with integrity and purpose, can really change lives financially and personally, helping build peace of mind, stability, legacy, opportunity, and a better future for families. All right, so just as promised, here we are with Mauricio, who is working at HGI and has been here for how long, Mauricio?
Well, it's going to be, 13 years.
13
roughly
years.
13, 14 years, yeah.
Wow. And what is the most that you've made in a year?
Here, about 3 million.
3 million in a year.
Yeah.
3 million in a year.
Shy of 3 million, I would say shy, because that included about a $2 million bonus. So
a $2 million bonus.
That's right.
Wow, that is amazing. And did you ever imagine making 6 or 7 figures back in the day?
Not in my wildest dreams or reality. I grew up in a home where my parents, they taught us how to, trade time for money. So everybody in my house, siblings, would go out and we would negotiate or look for how much we get paid an hour for labor.
Right.
So I could only count $10 an hour, 40 hours a week,
right.
$400, So it was not in the realm of me comprehending that you could make money based on value added.
Yes.
I could only comprehend back in the day how much is my hour worth in the places I would go and get a traditional job.
I love what you said, trading time for money.
Yeah.
It's one of the principles that I love to teach here in my channel is that, you hear in the Bible that you can't serve 2 masters. And I think that the essence of what he was talking about is you can't have money as your master, which means you're working for money, and have God as your master. So I feel I don't work for money. I have money work for me. And you hear this a lot with many of your motivational speakers. They say, stop chasing money, let money chase you. Is that kind of what you've...
Yeah, but it's probably one of my biggest realizations is that I cannot even bring up like the date or the time, but I do know that became clear to me is that the day you stop chasing money and focus more on creation of value, and the creation of value just means you help people.
Yes.
Right? You focus on that, then everything else follows. And so since I've done that with the company, some of these bonuses I talk about is all a fruit of me thinking, how can I be of value to this organization?
Yes.
Right? Not some people may have a different philosophy in business, but to me, it's a spiritual thing. It's a how can I help? By helping the company, I help people,
Yes.
and that has paid me very handsomely. But I wasn't really expecting it because that was not what I was looking to do.
And that's the route that takes you to the fruit that you're producing.
Yeah, a good way to put it. I worked for Motorola, and that's where I found this lady. Her name is Paola, and she says, "Hey, welcome to the land of free enterprise." I don't have no clue what free enterprise meant. Welcome to the land of capitalism. I had no clue what capitalism means.
Right.
But she said, "Here, come follow me," and she took me to a place where everything was so different than what I was seeing at the factory. At the factory, everybody's like complaining, talking bad, looking at the clock. What time am I going to clock out to be out of here? When she took me to her office, the people that were there were dressed differently. They smelled differently. They looked differently. They weren't looking at what time do I check out. They were a whole different energy and environment. That was what recruited me. I don't know what this is, but I want some of that, right? Little did I know that I was entering the most amazing industry in the world, which for me, right, is the financial industry in 1999. So your question is, how much did you make before? I mean, I was making what, $2,800 a month in 1999.
Wow.
The first year after I learned my little canned presentation, I'm going out door to door and I'm developing the skill to use the phone very effectively and do my door knocking very effectively. I made a couple $100,000 just off my own pen. I would not come back to the office every single week with less than 15 to 20 apps, meaning each app would pay me $1,000 on average. So that's $15,000 to $20,000 per week in the early 2000s.
Wow.
You figure that.
That's a lot of money back then.
That was significant off my own pen.
Right.
Right. And then there's a lot more to the story of how I went from, earning maybe $1,000 to several thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars per client per se. But it's all based on what type of a problem are you solving for that client? Because that's where things started to click for me. And I understood what Paola was referring to when she's saying, in this country, you'll get paid for the value that you're able to create.
Yes. And prior to that, did you feel like you were stuck? Prior to meeting Paola, would you say that you were stuck in like?
Absolutely. I mean, it didn't take long for me to realize that with the 9 to 5, as good as Motorola was back in the day, because they were on their peak years. I was working at their newest Harvard, Illinois HQ. And as good as the company was, I was on a fixed income, right? And rent and food and education and clothing and the cost of life.
Right.
I think anybody, maybe the struggle has gotten a little bit more difficult if you think about inflation and how stagnant salaries remained. At that moment, I knew that working an extra 20 or 30 hours was not the answer if the salary was going to be the same.
Right, right.
That makes sense?
Yeah, totally. And when did you realize that this industry was something real? That she wasn't just overplaying it, or
Yeah. Well, in the beginning, I couldn't believe this was real.
Most of us can't.
I was like, man, there's got to be laundering money. Something's not right here, because
Yes.
I went to the office. I turned in $100 app, meaning somebody that had made a decision through my advice that they would pay themselves first to save for retirement. Right. As an example. And the minute I would send this app to the insurance company, they send me back a check of $1,000.
Wow.
So I'm like, how is that possible? I just send $100. Where are they making this on? Later, I understood that most of these carriers expect those clients to remain for decades.
Right.
Therefore, they are advancing, right? But I didn't know that for months. And I'm like, what is going on? And even my whole siblings were saying, what are you into?
Yes, you know what?
What are you doing?
And this is why I want to present this to everybody, because, as you know, my channel is about faith-built success.
Yes.
And I'm a firm believer that when you are wanting to help others, it comes right back to you, as we were talking about earlier. And most of the people that we've encountered, That's what they think. You guys are moving drugs. What are you guys doing? There's no
Yeah.
way you can be driving a Lamborghini or a Rolls Royce, which, by the way, you have a Lamborghini, right?
Well, I've driven all of those exotics, yes. And it's funny you ask that because I said I'm not gonna buy one until I have the money to buy 10,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
Some people say you buy when you have the money to buy two, if you can pay it cash, right?
Right.
When I got that $2 million bonus, I'm over that. I'm literally at the dealership,
Wow.
and I had already driven. Like I had, driven them for weeks, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, no, I didn't. I just didn't pull the trigger to buy it. It's almost like it just went away. I had a bigger vision. Okay, I had a bigger vision. Maybe if I had not had the opportunity of being able to rent them for a long period of time, it would have been different. But I just took that and I traveled all over the country. I went to so many different cities, met so many different people, and did something more meaningful to me at that moment than to buy the
I like that.
the Ferrari or the Lambo, which I don't know. Still on the table. Maybe one day. I don't know.
Maybe one day when you can buy 100 of them, you'll get one.
Yeah, it was a good. I think good mindset to have. But
So, what did it feel like when you finally had that first $1 million year?
that's interesting. First, we're in Vegas, right? And I've had all kinds of amazing compensation, all kinds of people that I've helped that were the result of that compensation. But HGI, they made some promises, just like they provide an opportunity.
Right.
They don't just are handing money to all people, left and right. But they made some promises, and like I said in the beginning, I figured out a way to position myself to be of value to the company. Make a long story short, we're in Vegas for the convention, and it was time for those bonuses to be paid. And we're at the Venetian. I wake up. It's like 8 in the morning, 7, 8 in the morning, and my wife is the one that opened the
wow.
check, and there's like $2 million in that account that we've never really seen,
Wow.
And it was just surreal. We're right at the
My wife's on the other side of the camera going like this, by the way.
Amazing room at the Venetian with the most amazing people in the world. My parents were there, and I have never, like I said, I've gotten maybe 100,000, 200,000, but it's different when you get a couple million. And I'm sure it's very different when you get, the more. And I just think, again, if we continue being of value, then whatever we're worthy of should come.
Yes.
So, but yeah, it was a very good feeling. It's a feeling of freedom. It's a feeling of, you begin to think about, how much more can this help us help? Yeah.
Why do you think this industry is so overlooked?
I think just maybe the word. I think most people, when they hear sales, right? Or when they hear insurance, I don't know. It's just it made a bad rep. I don't know why. I honestly don't know. For me, it's a great question to ask because for me, it's been nothing but up and up from the beginning. It is challenging, but only in terms of you have to develop a skill, right? Like what's the skill of having a conversation with a client, the skill of picking up the phone, the skill of remaining disciplined and what you're going to do. I wouldn't know why most people just fail, but most people fail in most anything anyways, in any
Very
business, you guys are blowing up on social media. Most people do not make it on social media. Right. And but this is actually the contrary of what most people believe. As a matter of fact, it is the industry that's created the most millionaires, more than AI, more than real estate, more than any industry. And there's a lot of credible sources that can basically attest to that.
Yeah, and this is part of what we want to do is we want to show everybody that it's real. It's an industry that's real. It's an industry that you're not only helping yourself financially, but you're helping others. Because like I tell people, you're not selling pots and pans to somebody that doesn't cook.
Right.
Like this is something everybody needs. It's I wouldn't even call it sales to a certain degree because you're actually doing a service.
Right. And I think when you have that paradigm shift, you begin to realize just how transformational it can be, not for you as the professional, but for the families, right? And so it's one of those things that nobody's really going to comprehend unless they get their feet wet. Can't find a good analogy, but I guess, it's like unless you watch a certain movie, then you're going to know. Because, people can jump to all kinds of wrong conclusions. That could be one, and maybe it's demonized in many cases, depending on who's asked or the coach, right? The money's bad, money's the root of all evils.
Yes.
So if they associate financial with money, that could be why.
And at the same time, this industry creates so much opportunity, right?
Yeah, opportunity. It's life changing. I mean, at least to me, it's really been. I could spend a full hour just telling you all the blessings that has come to our family thanks to this industry, and all of the stories after being in the financial and insurance business, where you get that call from that widow who just lost the husband.
Yes.
Right. But how much better the situation is when she knows that she'd got several $100,000, several $1 million that could make it better, because yes, she lost the Social Security check. She lost the most important thing is the husband, right? Which is what I'm trying to really explain. But the fact that there's financial consequences, what I'm trying to say, that come along with that. You lose one Social Security check. You become a single filer now instead of a downward filing with your spouse. And I'm talking about the financial consequences, because there is the emotional consequences, right? There's the legal consequences, and then there's the financial consequences. And just knowing that you're there to alleviate at least that financial part of it, which is in many cases one of the toughest ones, it changes you. In ways you can't even explain.
How was your life changed in your own personal life?
Well, one thing is you enter the business, right? Because you could make all this money. And in my story, I was working at the factory. I'm looking for a way out. Paola comes and she says, "Welcome to America. This is the free enterprise country. You could be whatever you want. You just need the right vehicle," right? I didn't know this was the right vehicle, but you entered the industry because of all the wealth that can be created for the value that you provided for people. But then once you get those calls, as I was saying, and then you begin to realize how important of a role you play in other people's lives. This is real life you're talking about here. Real life to real cases. Then it does something in you, transform you in a deeper way to understand your role. Yes, you could make great money, but in many cases, even the biggest commissions have not been as impactful to me as it is knowing that I was the one that was there having that conversation with that couple, that years later, because of the decisions that were made at that kitchen table, the children are much better off, the wife is much better off, and I know that the person that left, right, if this watching from heaven, is feel proud that it made that decision.
I'm sure.
At that time.
I'm sure.
And it's this no other way to put it.
No, that's beautiful. Beautifully said. And how do you feel that this has impacted your family?
Well, I know my children know what I do.
Okay.
As they become, I guess, more aware and older, they see what Dad does. They have an office at the house, so I'm speaking with clients all the time. They overhear things, so they're more aware of what's happening. So they know, first of all, that Dad earns his living helping people.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And that the great home we live in and all the material things we've got is a result of that adding value to this family. So they understand that they're growing this with this paradigm, this mindset of, I'm going to be fine if I am a way of helping other people, blessing other people through the knowledge, through the skills that I acquire, et cetera, et cetera. So, that is the biggest payday for me than all the commissions and bonuses that I've gotten, is the example that I'm setting for the children as how you can earn great living by helping people.
Right. You know, and you hear this a lot, you know, with your Anthony Robbins and a lot of these motivators, that you need to stop chasing money and let money chase you. And from what I know and understand from the Humphreys, is that here you go out and you serve others, and the money just comes. So you're not doing it for the money, but the money does come.
Well, you could go out there and sell and make money. I'm just saying that the minute you realize that it is a result of the value you provide, the better you take care of that client, the more time you take to really align their objective with the financial products that you're providing, then you make 10 times more. Right. So yeah, it goes back to that basic fundamental is, yes, I love it. Stop chasing the money and be of service. And that would bless you, I don't know, 10 times, 100 times more. It has been my experience.
Right.
And as we've spoken before, one of the biggest realizations that I've had is first you begin chasing the money. Especially if you're like me, working at the factory, you know, barely making, you know, ends meet. You're looking for a way up. You're looking for how do I make more money? That's a reality. I mean, it was my journey, right? But then, like it's been in my case, and because of other influences, positive influences, that make you think, you begin by creating value. And if in the beginning, I didn't really understand that. So for those that may be like me, didn't understand in the beginning, it's really how much are you helping somebody, whether an organization, a person, then that would make you worthy of that compensation. And it's the more value you provide or create, bigger of a compensation you get. And there's no limit. That's what I love. There's no limit at the amount of value you can create, but you really have to believe that God gave you the ability to create.
Yeah.
You know, and in this case, value that will bring wealth to you.
I love that you said that, because it's something that I always talk about on my channel, that the first commandment that we were given was to multiply. And it seems that, you know, God's calculator is always multiplication. It's never addition.
Like that.
And I always quote a philosopher that says, any man can count the amount of seeds in an apple, but only God knows how many apples will come from the seed. You know, and that's the power of multiplication. And that's what I see that is done here.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, if I could add anything, is when we talk about a vehicle, we all need a vehicle to go from where we are now to where we want to go. And you then need a market. You need a segment. You need somewhere where there is a need.
Yes.
And what better place than going into a space where most Americans are underinsured? Most people aren't prepared for retirement. And the majority of the population is financially illiterate because they don't teach this stuff in school. So why not become part of that solution? Right? And it goes back again, you know, even though it may be redundant, it goes back to the value creation. You become part of a solution of that big of a problem. It's inevitable. It is inevitable that you're going to do well when you are solving for such a big problem. But you have to go in my opinion, with that mindset.
Right.
You know?
Without a doubt.
There's these laws of success, and then there's these bigger paradigms. There's higher ways of thinking, and that is, I'm going to go into the industry to make money. That's great. But I'm going to be part of a solution where there's a bigger problem. That's a different paradigm. And so you stick in there for a longer time, because now the cost is deeper than just making money. Although I've made, right? I mean, there's people that make billions. This industry is for like 9, 10 figures. Financially, I never even imagined I could have earned $1 million, let alone 15. I think all bonuses and everything in my career, I think I'm closing in about 15 million all together. And that's not, like, my father always, he's been watching my career, right? And one of the things he said was that, I worked close to 50 years in the United States, and I don't think I earned $1 million. Although when he started earning $2 an hour, that's 50 years ago, but still, it gives you that perspective, right? And of what this opportunity has done to an ordinary guy like myself. And I've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of ordinary people come to this industry and change their life.
Wow. Well, just your bonus check was 2 million, right?
Yeah, one of them.
One of them.
Well,
One of them.
Yeah, I'm on the sort of non-disclosure here on this last one,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, I guess being also tied in with experience is key, because the key to success is experience. So, when I was 14 years of age, I was in a lot of trouble because the town where I grew up was infested with gangs, all kinds of gangs. I came from Chicago. We're not far from it, right?
We were from
I'm
Chicago.
14. I'm 14 years of age, and thinking the cool kids belong to a gang,
Mhm.
right? And anyways, make a long story short, I was already on that way. But some call it God intervention. I got in my brain that I needed to go back to Morelia, to Mexico, so that I could recover my Spanish. I don't know where that came from.
Wow.
Came out of nowhere. I told my dad, I said, "You'll never let me go." He let me go. Maybe he's like, "Well, in the direction you're going, I would much rather you go down there than to see you lose yourself,
Right.
in this direction you're going." Make a long story short, the school that I had the opportunity to go to, it was a complete different environment and mindset. And that molded me totally different. And there I became first aware of the environments that you put yourself into mold you. You don't even realize it. It's like, all of a sudden you just become this new person. So then I decided to become more intentional. So when I met Jody and I had the opportunity, I say, okay, I built a pretty successful financial practice, but I've never sold $1 billion company.
Right.
And those guys have. So if the key to success is experience, I gotta remain humble, go where the opportunity is, and where the experience is, opportunity and experience. And make a long story short, I was sort of the original there and I've seen this company go from nothing to close to $1 billion.
Wow. It's impressive. It really is. That they're already building another $1 billion company. My wife and I, we've been serial entrepreneurs. I can't even get to 10 million with one company, let alone $1 billion.
Yeah.
And I tell people, and I always put this in their brain because they're like, "Oh, $1 billion, that's cool." I'm like, "Do you even know what $1 billion is?"
Yeah,
if you were to count 1, 2, 3, it takes 32 years to count to $1 billion. I mean, it's
$1 million is impressive. Right?
Yeah.
$1 billion, all it means is you're helping out lots more people. That's all it is. That's all it means.
I love that. That's a very, very good point. How important was your faith in this journey?
I've always acted knowing that God's got my back. And I sort of internally have to criticize some people that say, "Hey, I'm very faithful," but never act. They never really do something. I said, if you had real faith, you would go and you would act. Right?
Yeah.
And so going back to your question is, I'm a person of faith, therefore I act. Because I know that God's got my back.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been countless times where things have come right at the moment that the only logical or even explanation of that is the hand of God at that moment. And that will happen when you go out and you maybe put it all on the line and you go and do it. But it's a miracle.
Yeah.
That when you just push through, but there's faith behind it, like true faith behind it, it always, right at the last minute, if you want to call it, it comes through. It's just, I don't know how to explain it, but that to me is acting and faith and knowing that it's the man upstairs.
No, without a doubt. And, there's in the book of James, it actually says that faith without works is dead. So you have to do your part too. You can't just sit on a couch praying for money just to come out of the air, So yeah, what you're saying is definitely very right. And let me tell you, we're not about religion or going to church. we're about relationship. We feel like God is about relationship, not about religion. And I actually put a video out the other day that says that God was here before any church was ever built, before any temple was ever built, and before any religion ever started. So what does that tell you? That man is the one that created all that. So we're for believers as you, that it's just about your faith, it's your relationship with him, your heart. If you have a good heart and you want to do good, it'll come back to you. And you're living proof of it.
Yes.
So what does success mean to you now?
Success?
Yes.
That's a good question. It's just enjoying your everyday, to be grateful for what you have. If I have the opportunity to wake up, like one of my biggest dreams is the control of the time. You should have good commitments and responsibilities because, as one of my mentors says, success is a boss and it requires you to do certain things to achieve it. But the way I look at it is simply being able to wake up, walk the dog with my 2-year-old, along with my 4-year-old and with the family, basically, in the morning. Just that to me is success.
That's beautiful.
It's not the millions as I would originally would think. Well, when I make $1 million, then I'm successful. No, I think it's that every day living your life on your terms, and this opportunity make it possible. It has allowed me to prioritize how I want my life to be, and leveraging this opportunity, this business.
Wow. And you were mentioning that you've done many of interviews, but this is the first time somebody's interviewed you.
Funny. I went across country. Literally, I could name almost every major city of every of the 50 states.
Wow.
Yeah, spent a whole year on a plane, going around and interviewing people. I think we did 250 interviews or something. You can find them on my Instagram. You go there, and you can find all the interviews from all leaders in every major city. And I wanted to discover, what drove them, what helped them succeed. And I found something very interesting.
A modern Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, I wish I had somebody funded me like
Carnegie.
Carnegie, someone like Carnegie fund money. But
you funded yourself, right? Is that what you did with your first bonus check?
I buy a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, or I go travel the whole country, make these relationships, and I said, what's better, for lack of better expression? And I decided to not buy the Lambo, not buy the Ferrari, but go travel, meet a lot of people, a lot of successful people all over the place. Yes, and so right now I could pick up the phone and I know people in any city in California or Texas or Illinois or Georgia or wherever because of those interviews. Right. And these are maybe not the most, the Elon Musk of the world, but these are people that came from humble beginnings, ordinary people that are leaders in their communities, that are impacting their communities, and they have something drives them. And I wanted to figure out what is that. I could tell you, for me, one of the biggest drivers has been, and it turns out that it was not the exact same thing that drove them, but it was something similar. Some crisis they went through. Wow. That drove them to what they're doing today.
So that was definitely more impactful and beneficial than buying a Ferrari, which now you could probably buy 5 of them. So
yeah, I've told the story, before. I guess I'm 47. I'm not 20. I guess the hunger maybe that to buy a super exotic in your 20s or 30. I don't know. It was just weird because I had the opportunity of renting those cars and driving them for days, and if you ever bought a car, the first day is so exciting, and a month later it's not as exciting, and a year later it's like it's any other thing. Right. Been through that. And so I did say I'll buy it when I have like the ability to buy 10. And we got that big $2 million bonus, that first a check. I could literally buy, I don't know what, 5,
Yeah, about 4.
4. It depends on,
And then
depends on
yeah.
the model, but I didn't. I traveled the country and I met a lot of people. And I think that's more satisfying.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. And those relationships that could mature into more than that.
You know, my uncle used to say something very beautiful. And I'll end it with this too, in appreciation to your time. See, I could tell you, Mauricio, can you lend me $1,000? And I can pay you back. But the time that you offered me today, when you're in your deathbed, you can't be like, hey, Gio, give me back those 2 hours.
Wow. Okay.
So the time that we give somebody, we could never get back. So time is way more valuable than money. You know, which is something a lot of people always say, time is money. No, time is way more valuable than money. So with that, I appreciate you being here too, and just wanted to see if what would you say to the people watching? What would you recommend? What advice would you give them for somebody that has your experience?
You know, Albert Einstein, which we've spoken maybe off the camera, said the 8th wonder of the world is the power of compound interest. Mm-hmm. And the minute you realize that actually everything compounds, not just money. I mean, we're here talking about how the financial industry changes so many lives and all, but it's also your actions. Like, just think about everything; it compounds. Mm-hmm. So many times we go into an industry, we start a YouTube channel, we go into a business, we go someplace. The majority are not giving it enough time for the compounding. Even sometimes when you're thinking about investing and you want the money to double and then double again, the biggest and most powerful fertilizer is time. Mm-hmm. Without the time, there's no compounding. As a matter of fact, without the time, there's nothing. You need time and space for existence.
Yes.
Right? So if you give it time, then you shall see the compounding of anything that you're really committed to. But if you're switching from one thing to the next and one thing to the next and you're not allowing that to happen, thinking that you're going to build this next, I don't know what, this next billion-dollar app out of nowhere, even those people have been compounding for many years. But the majority of people don't realize. They think it's like an overnight success when it's really not. If you really look, these guys have been compounding for years until they hit on something like that. And so that is my message. It's just realize everything compounds, and if you understand the compounding of it, it's truly powerful. When you put, I almost want to tell you a story, but I don't know if I'll tell you it.
Please do.
If you don't like it, you can edit it. But it is said that when the first, settlers here in America, they were, they basically offered to buy what is known as Manhattan today for like, I don't know if it's like $24 or $200 to buy the entire area known as Manhattan today. And if you've taken those, let's just say $200 since, what would you say? Let's just say 1700s. And every 7 years you compound those up until this time. If you want to do that exercise, I think it's north of $1 trillion or something.
Wow.
So even small efforts that are compounded over time can become something massive. So I guess the message again is stick with it, because without the time, there's no compounding.
I love that because we've seen many reviews and things like that. They're like, oh, I tried for 3 months. I'm like, oh, wow, you really stuck in there, didn't you? I mean, you can't do anything in 3 months.
Nothing.
So I love that. And lastly, would you say that success without peace is still poverty?
Success without peace I would say so. Success without peace. I don't know if you could have success without peace. Like if somebody has all the millions, are they really successful if they're not at peace?
No, right?
I don't think so.
Right.
I would say somebody who is at peace, maybe don't have the millions, but just have their live life on their terms. That's a pretty successful guy to me, or gal,
I love
right? So yeah, absolutely. No,
it. Thank you so much. I
Thank
really
you, man.
appreciate your
Thank you.
time. And
I hope
it was
that's
a pleasure.
added value to your community.
Yes, I hope so, and I know it will.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
And back in the day, prior to HGI, what would you say that you made on a given year?